Welcome and welcome back. Yes, it is that time. We are finally in the preseason for leagues, League 6, the Demonic Packs, and I wanted to start with a run through of the areas, especially what I think is probably the strongest start that we've ever had, Varlamore and Karamja. Now, there are a few caveats before we jump into it. Mistalin is gone for this league. So that's like Lumbridge in the Barak area. No Brutus, no Scurius, maybe no Demon Bane. And with what's been shared, Varlamore is the most likely starting area. It did just get the Part 3 update not that long ago, so it makes some amount of sense. But since it isn't 100% confirmed, I'll also be sharing thoughts about Varlamore as a choice towards the end. And another caveat with Karamja, it's going to be a little bit different this year. We are still getting it for free, but they've said we're getting it for free within the first few hours. Now, what I suspect they're trying to do is reduce how much time we're spending in the league's tutorial right at the start. As you might recall from past leagues, we were picking our relic, we were learning about all these different task systems, and we were also picking our free area of Karamja. Now, I think when they say it's within the first few hours, my guess is because we're not going to be picking this at the start. We might still go through, getting our first relic, learning about the tasks, but we're probably not going to go through that sort of like unlock tutorial until we get to our first region. And I think what they're going to have us do is get that free pick for Karamja, and then we pick another region alongside it. So we're only going to have Varlamore at the start. Plus, whatever ends up being in a special Yama realm, they did say we are starting in some sort of custom Yama realm thing. It's not where the boss is normally. So there may be a couple other things that we get to play around with in there. That we'll just have to wait until we get some more information on. But enough of the caveats, let's jump into it. So Varlamore, this place is massive. It was already pretty huge in the last league, but because we got the new areas added to it, we get this whole segment basically on this side of the world. And man, it's also extremely content dense. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to cover. Now I'm going to start with the notable shops. And I'm going to give us a little bit of a map breakdown because it is such a large area. We're going to be starting up here in Auburnvale just so you can kind of keep your bearings. And then I'm going to be looping my way around for the rest of the continent. So up in the Auburnvale area, probably the easiest way to access this is through the Quetzal system. I'm assuming if we start in Varlamore, we're getting that quest for free. If not, you can walk up here. It is kind of in that northwest corner of Varlamore. But we've got a couple of really good shops to keep track of. We've got ourselves a sawmill, so we might be able to train construction. I'll have some thoughts on that in a little bit. We've got a tanner as well, so maybe work on some early d'hide, things like that. Might help a little bit with crafting as well. We've got an axe shop, which goes up to adamant. We've got a staff shop for all of your basic elemental stabs if you want to train magic. We've also got a friendly forester hanging out over here, so we are going to be able to do forestry events, and last year they were worth points, so that is definitely a worthwhile pickup. Moving down towards the Civitas and the Savannah area, we have got an absolute ton of shops down here. Now, if we are starting in Varlamore, we're likely starting in Civitas. They're probably going to plant us somewhere right here in the center, which is good because there's going to be some really important stuff here for us. We've got things like an armor shop, which goes all the way up through adamant, and they also sell weapons here, the blacksmith. If you're a fan of pink skirts, there's a fashion shop you can pick up pink skirts at. We've got the charter ships for sand and soda ash. You can't see it because of this other NPC on here, but there is a furnace right here. So for some very, very early crafting, only takes level 1. You can do sand and soda ash from the char ship. Make the molten glass here in the furnace, bank it right here outside of the Colosseum. It's a really good method, especially for those first couple of levels. We've got a crafting shop for all of those supplies, all your molds and things. We've even got a mace shop down here, which goes up to a ruined mace, so a little bit better than adamant. This is probably like your best early game weapon if you're doing something melee. And to come back here, we've got the estate agent. Now, I have him kind of oranged down a little bit because, yes, there is technically a house portal in Varlamore. It's on Aldrin. We'll see it in the next slide, but it's down here kind of in the southwest. Normally, having your house here does have a construction requirement. However, in past leagues, we got the Brimhaven house portal, which was accessible at level 1 construction. So I think if we're starting in Varlamore, they're going to do the same thing where we're going to be able to use that house portal at level 1, meaning we can actually pick up a house if they don't just give it to us for free. So we can train construction without having to pick up somewhere like Asgardia for the Remington house portal. Moving on down to the south, we have got ourselves a construction shop. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this one because of things like the Golden God relic last year. That was the relic that lets you automatically out things for infinite money, essentially. And the easiest way to build that up would be by going to one of these construction shops and picking up those supplies, working your way up to condensed gold. So it's really nice to have this available if we get something like that again. But also keep in mind a lot of the high-end house upgrades, things like the full jewelry box, things like the health portal that you get in the Superior Garden, the teleport nexus, all of that kind of stuff in your house takes some sort of specialty construction supply. So this shop right here means you get to make a lot of those things just because you have Varlamore, which is a really, really nice thing to pick up. Moving on over to the west, we've got a couple more shops to talk about. We've got a fishing shop down here. We've got a helmet shop, so now we can actually work at our full adamant setup if you're melee. Pick up kind of your base armor here at the blacksmith and come down here and get yourself an adamant full helm. Also, in the past league, at this charter ship specifically, they gave us the hunter crossbow. I have a feeling they're going to do this again. We will have to wait for them to confirm it, but I'd be a little surprised if they changed that. What this allows you to do within Varlamore without having to have Kandarin, you can make the Sunlight Hunter crossbow, which is a really good ranged weapon. There are some other requirements to it, but the Hunter crossbow is required to like combine with some stuff. So I'm really hoping that we see this again down here, and I'm sure we will. I'd be very surprised if they changed that. Moving up a little bit, we've got the Hunters Guild. Now, the Hunters Guild normally requires 46 Hunter in order to use the shops there. So for like a Hunter supply shop, if you're level 1, in Varlamore, it's a little tough. There is like a box trap spawn over here in the corner of Civitas, but there's nothing else that's really going to be helping you with Hunter at those early levels. So if this is the starting region, they're probably going to let us use this shop from level 1. They're probably going to remove the restrictions that are on it, or they might put some of the hunting supplies in like a general store. They've done this in the past as well. When we started in Mistalin, they put like box traps, I think, in the general store in Lumbridge. So I could see it go either way. To me, it makes the most sense to just remove the restrictions here because then you can buy all of the hunter supplies. You don't have to add them to a different shop. But again, we'll have to wait for a little more information on that one. And I will talk a little bit more about Hunter as we get into some of the later activities and routing and such. And then moving up a little bit, we've got ourselves our farming shop over here near the farming patch as well. So very convenient location. Pick up all your farming supplies pretty early. Start working on some seeds, planting those in the allotment patches, stuff like that. Now, moving on to the rest of the continent, kind of over on the western side, I want to start over here with Kamtorum because a lot of folks are probably familiar with Kamtorum. It's the area that you unlock as part of the Perilous Moons quest, and I know a lot of people like to farm moons, which we'll talk about when we get to the bosses. But the challenge with Kamtorum is you have to start the Perilous Moons quest, and that thing has a 48 Slayer requirement and a 20 Runecrafting requirement. Something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. Both of those skills, they're basically impossible to train on Varlamore with what we have right now. It's always possible that they do something like automatically start the quest for us, automatically complete the quest for us, especially if it's going to be a starting area. But I don't want to bank on that. So the two shops that are here, one of them is a pickaxe shop with a rune pickaxe, and one of them is a rune shop that sells law runes especially. They'll be nice to pick up later. I would not assume that we're getting these from the start, and there are a couple other shops that are similar to them available in this same area, so I don't think it's a huge deal. So speaking of, on Alderaan down here, we got the house portal, that little symbol right there, which I suspect we'll be able to use from level 1. And then we've got a gem shop. Now I know some folks are familiar with this gem shop from either my series or Settled series, or, the couple of other, Zaya locked, Varlamore locked folks who come down here. The restock times are horrible. They're horrendous. Normally, only one person can really use this gem shop in order to train their crafting up. However, in leagues, shops have infinite stock. There's no worry about respawn timers or anything like that. So it doesn't matter how many Doc Johnsons are rolling up. You can use this shop for getting your crafting up. And this has been really powerful in the past with things like in Al Kharid having emeralds that you could use. If we get another, like, buying from a shop noted stacks type of relic, then this is especially going to be really, really powerful. Kind of on the south side of Alderaan, we've got ourselves a shield shop. We can get our adamant kite. Now we're really kitted out in our full adamant gear, feeling pretty good. We also have a backup pickaxe shop. This one only goes up to a steel pickaxe, so it's not great, You didn't pick a mining relic, right? But at least you've got something available to you until you get access to this rune pickaxe shop up here in Camptorum. I also wanted to add this wine shop that's over here. Now, I will say, Eclipse red wines, they're really expensive. They're 1k GP each. So unless you're just absolutely rolling in cash, this probably isn't going to be a good food for you. They do heal 16, so like it's probably the highest healing food that you're easily going to be able to access in Varlamore. It's not good for melee, has the same problem with things like Jugs of Wine where it lowers your attack stat. But realistically, pretty much every bar within Varlamore sells either stews or wines, and some of them sell both. And those heal 10, 11 already. So they're already going to be pretty good food. So unless, again, you're just like absolutely printing money and you really, really want the food from here, you probably aren't going to need this one. Now, up to the north in some of the newer area, we got ourselves another fishing shop. I wanted to add an extra call out for this one, though, because it also sells raw fish up to swordfish. This can be a good early cooking option for you, especially if we get one of those relics that kind of empower shops. And then over here in Tal Teclin, we've got ourselves an arrow shop, so we can get up to rune arrows. Good for ranged ammunition, especially early on. And then also another rune shop. This one sells cosmics, sells natures. The only thing that it doesn't sell that you're probably going to be looking for are law runes. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but there is relatively good transportation around Varlamore, so I don't think we'll be hurting for that too much early on. And just so you have it as like a quick reference, here are all of the shops in those different regions, so you kind of know what you're working with. And man, I mean, Varlamore has a ton of shops. I mean, just look at this page. I had to make everything so small just to get it all on here. It's crazy. Next up, we have got the resource nodes. Now, in terms of just kind of general resources, you've got high-level trees. You've got a good spread of trees all the way up through to magic trees. You've also got hardwood trees, both teaks and mahoganies kind of running around in the area. There are some runite rocks hidden away. One that's kind of in the northwest up where the Custodia Valley is. And then you also have two, which are down in the Amoxthiotl dungeon. Those will require the quest, the Heart of Darkness, which has a 48 Slayer requirement, so we may not have that right away, but you're not going to be mining runite right away either. And there's just, in general, a lot of kind of random surface mines that have everything in between, so you've got a lot of good ore options. Likewise with fishing, it's got a lot of spots. You've got shrimp, you've got lobsters, you've got fly fishing, and it goes all the way up to sharks. So you are going to be doing pretty well on the fishing XP if you pick up something like a fishing relic here. And of course, Varlamore is big on hunter. I put red chins here because I know people like to use those for range training. So the fact that you do have red chins in this area are going to be really nice for that. But of course, Varlamore has a lot of other hunter options. You have things like all of the moths, all of the butterflies in the area. They're birds of all different levels. There's a lot of deadfall traps, a lot of whatever the teasing stick thing is. There's so many hunter methods. You do have to get yourself past level 1. Again, we'll talk about this when I start going through like how we would route in Varlamore. On the farming side, we get a really nice spread of different types of patches. We're getting 4 different tree patches, so that's the standard, the fruit tree. We get a Calquat tree, which is so random. I don't know why there's a Calquat tree patch here. It seems just so weird. And then you also get a hardwood tree patch. That one is behind a quest, but it's a very easy quest to complete. So we're eating pretty good on the trees. And likewise, we have a pretty good spread of other patches as well. I mean, we've got a normal setup for farming, so the double allotment with a herb and a flower patch. We get an extra flower patch as well. We get a barley patch down in Alderan. We even have a belladonna patch, which is like also kind of random. Calquat, belladonna, I don't know why these are here, but hey, we'll take them, Maybe it'll be helpful for something. And then we come into the skilling activities, and there is a lot of different stuff in Varlamore. It's got a really nice spread. Starting with Veil Totems, this is one of the new things for this year. You do need 20 fletching to start it, but I will say this is probably one of my favorites of all of the stuff that's here, because it is really fast fletching XP. You get a couple of rares with it, the fletching knife, the bowstring spool. It also gives you tree seeds, which scale up with your fletching level, not your farming level. So you're going to be able to get a huge spread of seeds as you're training with this activity. It's giving you bales of flax. Don't make the mistake of unpacking these, unless we get like a relic that lets us note and unnote things in our inventory. I made this mistake on my Iron Man, and I regret it to this day. I unpacked so much flax. If you keep them in the packs, it's kind of like AFK crafting. Now, Is it great XP? No, you're spinning flax. But AFK crafting is AFK crafting. You feel me? So, like, don't unpack them. Anyway, you also get dirty arrow tips as a reward from this activity, and this thing prints dragon arrows. So if you need some dragon arrows, maybe for like your T-bow, or maybe you're doing something interesting with like a dark bow build, then this is going to be a really good activity for you as well. But all right, enough glazing the Veil Totems. That, Veil Totems may actually save the woodcutting relic if we get that one again this year, just because there's going to be some points now, or at least extra points associated to fletching, associated to this minigame. I digress. All right. Other skilling activities. I want the woodcutting relic to be more than a trash can, okay? We've got the Moon's Key Chest, which is an interesting addition within Varlamore. Now, this is in the Moxley Auto Dungeon, so again, you're going to have 48 Slayer in order to access this. But once you do, it's a good supply chest, and it works in a similar way to something like the Taverley chest. You have to get these key halves by doing different activities in Varlamore. Well, if it is our starting area, we're going to be doing a lot of skilling here, so we're going to be slowly building up keys anyway. The loop half of keys come from any of the various skilling activities, so chopping trees, fishing stuff, what have you. Those all have a small chance at dropping a loop half of key. The chance does get better the higher tier the node is, so if you're chopping a normal tree, it's going to take you 10,000 logs to get a key, to get a loop half. If you're chopping new trees, it's probably like 1 out of 500. Those are numbers that I just pulled out of my bum, not the actual rates. You can check the wiki if you're curious about how the different skilling activities scale, but you will just be passively earning those. So that side is going to be really nice, I think. And then on the key halves, those come from doing combat in Varlamore, so anything that you kill is going to have a chance of dropping a key halve. For the most part, some of the lower level stuff, maybe not so much, but as you start doing things like Frost Nagwas, Sulfur Nagwas, and we'll talk about the mobs here in a minute, but any of that stuff, any of the bosses, they're going to have a chance of dropping key halves. My personal choice would be doing mass Huey Coddle kills. That's the group boss that you can do on Varlamore, and again, we'll talk about it in a minute, but the interesting thing about that is the key drop right there is like 1 out of 50, and it isn't impacted by the number of people killing the boss. So with all of our powers in leagues, we're going to be deleting that guy in like groups of 25. It's going to take 15 seconds to kill him, and you've got a 1 in 50 chance for those key halves. So I think you're going to be able to stack those up really well there. Next up, we have Wealthy Citizens. Varlamore is really well known for this. This actually came as inspiration from leagues. This is the way that in the main game, you can kind of have a thieving relic in a sense, right? You can AFK thieve when the Wealthy Citizens are distracted. This is at 50 thieving, but once you get there, it's really good XP an hour. You get house keys if you want to do something a little bit different, stealing from the houses, building up some jewelry, a little bit of a different way to get some cash. But all of this is going to be just really, really good thieving XP. We then have the Colossal Worm Agility course. Now, this one does have an agility requirement of 50. There's nothing lower on Varlamore besides, maybe a shortcut somewhere, but nothing that you're going to be able to do from level 1. So this is going to be a little tough for us to use. I think we may have a solve if this is the starting region and we get Karamja a little bit later, but there may also be a relic that gives us passive XP, so we may be able to access this sooner than kind of what I'm describing here. But this one also has some different rewards that come from it, some recolors for the graceful outfit if you end up having access to that. We may have just a few points associated with it as well, and it is probably the most chill agility course in the game. That maybe like the Yanil Rooftop, but this one's pretty good, and it has a second tier that you unlock at 62 or 68 agility. It gets even a little bit more chill, a few less clicks for you. So it's actually pretty decent XP an hour, and it also has a chance to give you bone shards, which are going to be used for prayer. And while I'm talking about it, that's used down here. The prayer method at the libation bowl. You take these shards, you take Sunfire wine, and you just, it's quick. You just click the libation bowl. It's up north of Camtorum, and it's going to give you a lot of prayer XP. That does require 30 prayer in order for you to start there, so make sure you're burying bones early to get that. But once you do, it's really nice, and if you're training agility, you're passively getting some prayer XP. There's a lot of stuff in Varlamore that's going to give you bone shards or things that turn into bone shards, so you're going to be getting a lot of passive prayer XP from this. Next up, we have Mastering Mixology. Now, I know a lot of people don't enjoy this minigame, but it does give really good Herblore XP. You can start it from level 60, and it also has a lot of rewards associated to it, both that kind of help Herblore and are also probably going to be worth a lot of points for League's tasks. So it is a good one to get down. Last year, it did also get boosted points, so it's not as bad as you might be used to in the main game. But I know a lot of people really don't enjoy this. I do have a guide on it from when it originally came out, so if you want to check out some of the methods, I'll put that up here on screen somewhere for you. Next, we've got calcite mining. This one requires 41 mining. This is also in Camtorum, so it may have that 48 Slayer, 20 runecrafting requirement. But this is a good, kind of like AFK mining method. You get some bone shards, and then you get some other random stuff alongside that. It's probably not going to be the best XP an hour, but, you know, AFK mining is kind of hard to come by. You got this and, like, stars, and that's about it. So if you didn't pick a mining relic, I imagine this is going to be extremely helpful for you. We've also got Hunter Rumors coming from the Hunters Guild. You can start these at level 46 Hunter, and like I mentioned before, there are a lot of different critters running around in Varlamore. Now, the way that they work, normally you would get a task, and they would assign it anywhere in Gielinor. Any hunter creature would be fair game as long as you had whatever quest requirements or skill requirements met. For leagues, they lock that down to whatever areas you have unlocked. So actually, I think for Hunter Rumors, this is something you probably want to focus early before you pick a bunch of areas, because it'll save you a bunch of time from having to jump around. And it also gives like a decent spread of supplies. It's nothing too crazy, but you can get some herbs, you can get some logs. I think there's even some seeds as well on one of the tiers of the Hunter Rumors. So it's probably a nice activity to get, you know, at least a little ways through in the early game. And also keep in mind, you unlock some things as you get up there in the Hunter task streak, so you can get things like the Quetzal Whistle, which teleports you to the Hunters Guild. That'll be really nice for transportation around Varlamore. You'll also unlock some of the hunter meats. So at 50, you get like the Sunlight Antelope meat that you can do. It's really high healing food. Moonlight Antelope, I think, is 100 Hunter Rumors. So those are going to be some really solid unlocks coming from there. We do have a rune crafting method on Varlamore. It's not great, so I got it kind of small and in the corner down here. Takes 33 rune crafting to make Sunfire runes, and this is a combination of Fire runes, Sunfire splinters, and a Pure Essence. But the XP is terrible. It gives you like 9 XP per rune that you make, which is awful. I mean, normal rune crafting in general is kind of awful, but the fact that it takes all this stuff and it only gives you 9 XP, and you need 33 rune crafting for it, it's just a really bad combo. We have nothing that helps us in the early rune crafting. Once we get to 33, great, we can do this if we absolutely have to. I hope we have other rune crafting methods available to us. It may even be from other areas that we have to pick later, because this ain't it. This is not it, Chief. And of course, we've got the Gem Crab. I debated whether or not to call this a boss. I mean, I think it's technically a boss, but really this is going to be like our big AFK training, kind of like what Scurious was in Mistalin. So Gem Crab's going to be popping this year if Varlamore is the starting area. It does give slightly reduced XP. It's like 87.5% compared to if you did something like Sand Crabs or Frost Crabs or whatnot. There are some of those running around in Varlamore, so you do have those options if you want, but man, Gem Crab is just super AFK. 10 minutes, click once, you're done. So I think a lot of people are going to be camped out there. And the way it works in the main game, if you're in the top 16, you get 3 gems mined whenever it's done at the end of the 10 minutes. Now, I think for leagues, this thing's going to be swarmed. Maybe they'll like increase the cap 100, 1,000, I don't know. It would be kind of cool though, because then you passively build up some gems. You don't have a mining requirement on there. It also doesn't give you mining XP, but it is kind of nice, you know, if you're already going to be AFK there training combat, pick up a little bit of crafting XP too. Moving on to the mobs and the bosses. There aren't a crazy amount of important mobs in Varlamore. The Naguas are ones that people are probably familiar with because they drop those double hitting weapons. So we've got Frost Naguas, Sulfur Naguas, and then Earthen Naguas is the newest addition that we got in Varlamore Part 3. We've also got things like the Elder Custodian Stalkers, which do give an offhand, which is pretty good. It's somewhere between a Ruin Defender and a Dragon Defender, I think, in terms of stats. So it's not a bad pickup. And we also have Brutal Blue Dragons as well. You know, farm them out, maybe some Alkables, maybe some Blue Dragon Scales, Visage Chance as well. Now, with everything that's on here, it all has a Slayer requirement. 48 Slayer for the Naguas, and each of these are locked behind a quest. So you have the Heart of Darkness for Frost Naguas, which is just the 48 Slayer. You've got Sulfur Naguas, that's the Perilous Moons quest, so 48 Slayer, 20 rune crafting. And then the Earthen Naguas, which, I mean, this is the worst offender. Holy dude. 48 Slayer, 52 rune crafting. Oh my god, you have to get 52 rune crafting in Varlamore? I don't think so, man. It's not worth the double stabbies, okay? I'm just telling you that right now. The mature custodians are the first ones that drop the offhand, which is a 67 Slayer requirement, plus you have to do the quest, which is the Shadows of Custodia. You can start that at 54 Slayer, but yeah, you have to get 67 before you're going to get the offhand as a drop. The baby ones don't have it on their drop table. So a little bit rough, but once you get up there, you've got the Slayer level, you kind of finished off these quests, you are going to be able to access some of these critters and get their drops, so it's not the worst thing, it's just an extra level of pain, I think, to get to these. Now, on the boss front, Varlamore is pretty well stacked. Obviously, we got Doom with Part 3. This is the new one to the bunch. And, I mean, man, it's got so much good stuff here. You've got the best-in-slot magic gauntlets. You've got the Eye of Iac, which I think people are really going to be excited for this year. This thing is like the blowpipe, but for magic. And especially when you put this side by side with things like the combat relics that we've had in the past, so like reducing attack speed, this thing might get down to one tick. You might be one ticking big old magical orbs at things, which sounds like a lot of fun. Also has best in slot boots. Yes, they do have to combo if you want the absolute tippity top tier of the stats from them, but they're actually really good even in their base form. But we'll talk a little bit about the combination items here in a minute. Now, as for the rest of the bosses, we've got kind of like the early game, we've got the Amoxliotl, also drops the double hitting crush weapon. The big one, we've got Moons. This thing is like Barrows, but for Varlamore, so you're going to get an armor set that's really powerful for each of the combat styles, and you can farm these individually as well, so if you just want the melee set, you can just kill Blood Moon. You just want the magic set, you can just kill Blue Moon, which is really nice. And the other nice thing about this boss, it has dupe protection. So if you weren't aware, like, you'll be able to build up a full set of each of these armors really, really quickly in Varlamore, and that's going to just teleport you into like all of these endgame bosses. You could seriously take any of the moon sets and probably just straight up run into any of the other bosses that are on here, which is going to be crazy. Like, you're going to have power spikes upon power spikes super fast into the game. Assuming you don't have to get 48 Slayer and 20 runecrafting on just Varlamore, yeah, Moons is behind the Perilous Moons quest, so that might slow you down a little. We've also got Huey-Coddle. That's the group boss I had mentioned earlier. So this drops Huey-Coddle Hide, which is good for ranged armor. You're probably not going to need it because you're going to have access to the Eclipse set, but this is like Blessed Hide with a little bit extra prayer bonus, so there may be some use cases for you here. You've got the Dragon Hunter Wand, which has had a boost. This thing actually gives a massive damage increase against dragons. And likewise, we've got the Tome of Earth, which pairs really well with this. A lot of dragons are weak to earth spells. So, I mean, this combo right here, very, very good. Against Huey, against things like Ulm and the Chambers of Zarek, against steel dragons. And keep in mind, last summer, we got a huge shakeup in elemental weaknesses. Things were increased, things were added. So there are just a ton more elemental weaknesses coming into this league compared to the last. So these elemental tomes are actually going to provide a lot more value this year. The other two big ones we've got Bardorvis over here. Now, there is a chance that they move him away from Varlamore. I don't think they will, but we did get Doom added here, so I could see them potentially shifting this up to Kourend. That's where it was a couple of leagues ago. I think it's unlikely, just because of how the map is laid out, just because of some of the lore there, but we'll have to see. If we do get access to it, we're going to get ourselves almost the best in slot magic set, the Executioner's Axe, as well as a crazy powerful ring, the Ultor ring. Now, I will say, farming out Desert Treasure 2 bosses, kind of a pain in the butt. I hope that they add something like dupe protection this year, because, man, the items are just so rare. That's the real problem. Even with League's boosted rates, you might have to kill Bardorvis 1,000 times to get yourself a full set of Virtus robes, and that's not saying, like, you picked up 3 Virtus masks and you're crying in a corner somewhere, you know? So, like, oh, please, give me a relic or give me a combat mastery that gives me dupe protection everywhere. I love Moons for the dupe protection. Just let me have that for every boss. Let me get every drop in leagues without having to farm out 6,000 Bardorvis, you know what I mean? But they are really powerful drops, so, that might be worth your time. We'll talk about that in the routing section, though. And, of course, you've got Soul Heredit with the Colosseum. This guy has a lot of interesting drops. You've got the Quiver, which is going to be best in slot for your ranging. You've got the Echo Boots, which are kind of like rings of recoil on your feet. They also have pretty good stats. You've got best in slot Prayer here. He does drop Onyxes. I probably wouldn't recommend farming the Onyxes from here because it's still not that great of a chance, and you have to get through Wave 12 in order to get that drop. So we'll have better options in Karamja, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but if you really wanted to, you could try to farm out Onyxes here from Soul. And then you, of course, also have whatever this is called. Renal sticks? I don't know, man. Don't make me try the name. Okay, we're doing well so far on pronunciations. This thing is like a ranged dragon warhammer, so it's a nice spec weapon, lower defenses. Probably not that important in leagues because we're generally pretty accurate. We get a lot of like beefy stuff out of the combat masteries, so nothing crazy, but it's kind of a fun weapon. And of course, they have said echoes are going to be coming back this year. I bet they're going to call them something slightly different. You know, maybe like demonic packs because it's like a Yama theme league. But last year was Echo Soul, Blue Soul. He gave us the Sunlight Spear, which was like prayer scaled AoE special attack, melee weapon. That was really fun to use. We also got these bracers here from him as well, which doubled healing and were really, really strong for range, but also had decent bonuses for melee as well. So it would be cool to see these again. I'm not 100% sure that we'll get the same items, and they've talked about this a little bit already. I'm going to call it the echoes of echoes. They're mostly the same bosses, some different item rewards. They haven't been specific, so we don't know what. But I think for this one, it's probably going to be Soul again. Soul was really popular. It also lets you farm out the Coliseum really quickly. So I have a hard time believing that they're going to change this. They may change the rewards that we get from it a little. But again, I mean, the Sunlight Spear was one of the better things, I feel like, from rewards last year. So I feel like they're probably going to keep that one. I could see them reworking the gauntlets a little. One other option, Doom is the new boss of the region. They could make him the Echo. There's a world where I could see that. I don't know what they would do with that because it's like an infinite like delving system type of thing. So maybe you would fight him and it's like immediately on Delve 8 or Delve 10 or something like that and has some extra mechanics. I'm not really sure. And I still really believe that it's going to be Soul again. I don't think that they would have changed this one specifically out of all the Echo bosses that we got from last year. And of course, moving into the gear setups, how are you looking in just Varlamore by itself? Pretty good, honestly. I mean, you've got coverage on all styles. You're going to be getting to moons like fairly early, so for melee, you've got the Blood Moon set. You have access to the Arcane Blade through the Final Dawn quest as a good special weapon. You can use that with your offhand that you get from the Custodians. And, jewelry-wise, yeah, there's some decent ways to get glories going through like the Moon Key chest. So you'll be able to get dragon stones, be able to craft those, have a decent kind of filled out something. And then as you push into the later game, you've got the prayer armor. If we get ourselves that Echo Soul weapon back that scales with prayer, it's going to work really well. You can get some Onyx jewelry. Again, I wouldn't necessarily farm it here, but if you want it in the Coliseum, I mean, we're going to unlock Karamja here in a minute anyway, so I would probably recommend going there. You got an Executioner's Axe if you want to farm out Vardorvis. I mean, you can still use the Blood Moon Boppers even in the late game. They're going to be really strong. You got a couple of boot options. You got a really strong melee ring. You might even pick up a Dragon Fire Shield. Now, I know there are some concerns because Missalin has been yeeted off the map. I think that we're going to still have the Dragon Fire Shield, all right? I think it would be very, very difficult for them to not include that. So we're likely getting Dragon Slayer auto-completed. And then in the past, they've added things like the Elemental Shield to a Slayer shop. They might do something like that, add a Dragonfire Shield to a general store so you can buy it. Or they might have something like, Yama has captured the NPCs in Lumbridge, and so now you can, like, chat with the Duke, or maybe you can go and chat with Oziak in Yama's lair, and they're tied up, and they can just give you a shield. So I think we're going to have access to that. I think we're going to be able to make the Dragonfire Shield, which is going to be a really nice tank option. Really good strength bonus as well for melee setups. Rip the Teku Salamander, man. Oh, if only he could be good. Feels bad. On the range side, we've got a pretty good showing as well. Obviously with like the Eclipse set, we've got that going for us. Fairly early on, we've got a Sunfire Hunter crossbow as well. I mean, shoot, you can probably use that in the late game as well. I mean, it's very, very similar to something like a blowpipe. And again, since we're going to be pretty accurate from things like our combat masteries, it's going to hold for a long time. And then, of course, if you want something a little different, you've got like the Huey Coddle armor. You can get together a rune crossbow. It's not the easiest thing in this region, but it is doable, technically. Of course, you're getting best in slot ranging cape with the quiver here. Those couple of boot options are really good. If we do end up getting ourselves the bracers from Echo Soul again, that would also be really good here. So pretty decent for range. And then for Mage, oh my god, Mage is eating so good this year because, man, we've not only got Blue Moon with a buffed Dragon Hunter wand, and more elemental weaknesses. But we also have ourselves the Eye of Ayak, which is going to be crazy. And we've got the Confliction Gauntlets. Plus, if you wanted to farm out for the robes here at Vardorvis, you don't even really have to. It's not that big of a jump from things like Blue Moon to Virtus. So, like, honestly, I'd be totally fine camping Blue Moon with an Eye of Ayak and Confliction Gauntlets. I think that would go quite well. Now, I've been assuming through the course of this that we're getting whole items. I still believe that's going to be the case this year. I will be absolutely floored if they decide, hey, you've got to go through all of the rigmarole to combine these things. But I want to make sure you guys are prepared. So if they pull the rug from out from under us, these are the combos for some of the items that I've been talking about. So we've got like the Executioner's Axe. These are all the different areas where normally you would have to farm them out. You might notice something here, especially with this. A Mistlin's gone, so this would quite literally be impossible unless they do something funky, like, you know, they have Leviathan accessible through the desert or through, like, your joint Yama whatever starting thing. I really, really, really don't think that they're going to do this, but here it is in case you need it. Same deal with the Ultor Ring. Normally, this is what it would look like to make the Ultor Ring. Again, you know, last year they had it as a whole item drop. I think they're going to do it again. And then the Echo Boots. So, yes, whole items. When I say that, the axe, you still have to farm out the 4 pieces of the axe, but what they do is they let all 4 pieces drop from every single Desert Treasure 2 boss, so you don't need multiple areas to build the thing out. Does suck, though. You are going to have to get 4 axe drops from Vardorvis to build the whole thing, unless they change that this year. So, a little brutal, a little bit. And of course, on the new items, we've got the Confliction Gauntlets and the Boots. Now, these are less complex in terms of combination items, so I mean, maybe they'll make us have to pair up in order to, like, get these bonuses. I kind of doubt it for how much they're going to be giving us whole items from, like, other areas of the game. Bear in mind, they're going to have to, unless they do something unique, because some of these items that come from Mistlin would literally be impossible this year. So, either way, you know, here's the combinations for these as well. But I really think, yeah, maybe outside of, like, the boots are maybe the most likely thing right here that I would see, because they're already good as a base, so they might not give you the full maxed out treads as a drop, which would mean Asgarnia has a little bit of value there, because that's what combines in to give them the total top tier stats. But we'll have to see on that. I think everything else, they're coming as whole items. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if they took that away from us after last year. Next up, we have got the task breakdown. These are the numbers from last year, so 12 easy, 40 medium, 39 hard, 15 elite, 5 master. Because of the new content that we've got, we are probably going to see these just increase in general. We picked up Doom, we got Bale Totems, we got the Gem Crab. You know, maybe there's going to be some other skilling stuff in the mix as well, because we got things like Red Chins now kind of running around in the area, some other hunter creatures that were added. So I do think those are just going to be net new tasks. We may see them rebalance a couple of things in there, some of the more tedious things. They might reduce, like, the high end of having to go for hunter rumors, like 100 hunter rumors, 500 hunter rumors, that type of thing. But also, keep in mind, Mistlin has been removed. Mistlin was worth almost 6,000 points last year. Those are going to have to go somewhere. So I think it's going to be spread across a lot of regions, but Varlamore is one of the ones that actually got new content, so we'll probably see the biggest jump here. Last year, it was about 9,500 points, so I could see it going up to being worth around 11,000 points as an area. And of course, for some other examples, you know, on the task side of things like Coliseum Glory, Soul Heretic KC, Doom Depth. We've got all of the boss CAs, all of these other kind of like mid-tier bosses. They're probably going to have some KC tasks as well, like 100 Moxliotl. Any of the rare equipment, those typically have tasks. So Quiver, different moon sets, the treads, all of that kind of stuff. We've got a couple of mini games that offer rewards, like Mixology, Bale Totems, Rumors. All of those have outfits, have other items, things like that you can pull. They're probably all going to be worth something. And we also generally see some sort of skilling milestones in the mix. So go and catch 50 red chins, 100 red chins. Yeah, things like that will be in there as well. Oh man, let me catch my breath, because golly, Varlamore has so much stuff, doesn't it? Goodness, we haven't even talked about Karamja. Luckily, Karamja is the opposite. It's a small region, and it's almost like a content desert. There's almost nothing here. But here's the picture of the map. This is the area that we're working with. Notable shops, these have been absolutely crushed by Varlamore. And other regions, really, there's not a lot happening here. There is a food shop. This is also why I don't think you'll need wines from Varlamore, because you can get Karam wines. They're like 300 GP each from this food shop, and they heal 18. So you're within the first couple hours, yeah, just come out here, get yourself some Karambans, you'll be set. You've also got all of the Tazar shops down in the Tazar city. Those have things like the obsidian equipment. You can get onyxes. So if you were going to go for a Fury, going to go for like a regen bracelet, this is really where I would recommend going for it. And you can buy Chaos Runes from the Taltaklin rune shop. So you do still have that method. You don't need to go to like Aubrey and Varrock since he's gone. Yama took him out, man. I don't know. On the resource node side, we are picking up the Calquat tree patch that's over near Taiba One Eye. We do have more Runite rocks down in the Tazar city. Probably the best place for them are going to be after the Fire Cape as you get into the kind of like the Inferno side of it. One of the things that a lot of people really enjoy as well is out here, the Karamja fishing spot. That thing doesn't move, so if you want purely AFK fishing, this is going to be the place to go. I do hope we get the Taiba One Eye Trio quest automatically completed. It's kind of a pain in the butt to go and do. So hopefully we get it for free this year. You can just straight up go and fish Karamjans at like 68 fishing or so whenever you unlock that. We've got gem rocks in Shiloh as well. May or may not need that since we've got the gem shop in Alderan on the Varlamore end. But if you've got like a mining relic and you auto chisel those as you get them, that can be really helpful. And then we do have more hardwood trees kind of littered throughout Karamja, mainly in the hardwood tree patch, but I think there's a couple others running around on the island. Skilling activities are also looking a little barren. You know, we do pick up the nature altar for rune crafting. That's at 49. So it doesn't really help us with the early rune crafting method, but, you know, this is going to be better than something like Sunfire Runes once we get up there. We also have access to the Brimhaven Agility course. Now, this can be done from level 1. Probably the best way to use it would be swinging on, like, the rope or going across one of the little walkways just over and over again. We're going to have better XP rates in League, so it's not going to take you long to get some levels, and then you can run around and you can get the tickets. Now, with Brimhaven, you get both the Agility tickets and the reward tickets, so you can kind of do a little bit of two birds, one stone here, where, you know, there might be like a task, which is, you know, tag 100 pillars in a row, turn in 100 tickets for XP, and you're also going to have things like go and buy the pirate hook, which is going to use those reward vouchers. So we don't have to pick between those now. We can just do both at the same time. And these tickets were boosted last year, so I expect we'll get them boosted again this year as a part of either the relics or, you know, somewhere in there. You can also pickpocket Tazars. This is at level 90. Probably wouldn't recommend it if we don't get a thieving relic, because they're kind of a pain in the butt. The fail rate's pretty high. You do take damage if you don't have ice gloves, and ice gloves, unless they do something fancy, you're only getting them from Asgardia, so not great. But if we have something that heals you up, then, you know, maybe this will be worth it. Or like a thieving relic, if you can't fail, you don't take damage, that type of thing, then it might be good, because they are going to be really good XP in that case. And of course, we are getting ourselves a Slayer Master. Now, something important to keep in mind with leagues, Slayer Masters work a little differently. There's no level requirement on them. They give all of the same pool of tasks, and those tasks are limited to the areas that you have unlocked. So for that early Slayer piece that we were struggling with in Varlamore, Karamja solves that for us. We don't need another area to figure out that problem. We get this Slayer Master for free, so we'll be able to use him. On the mobs and bosses side, we're again keeping it pretty light. We've got those Tazar guys running around again. They give you obby equipment. You can get this in the shop, though, so unless there's something that specifically says, hey, go and get this drop, it's probably not that worthwhile killing these. We are getting metal dragons in the Brimhaven dungeon, as well as some other things, so if you want, like, a little bit of an easier way to get Runite limbs, you can do that here. Maybe you want to AFK for a Visage on steel dragons, that could be a thing as well. But of course, the big draws for Karamja are going to be the Fire Cape from Jad and the Inferno Cape from Zuck. So both of those are going to be the big things. And yes, we did not get an Echo Boss in Karamja. I don't think we're going to get an Echo Zuck, all right? I think there's enough random, like, high-end challenges. Karamja's probably not seeing an Echo Boss again this year. Now, for the gear stuff, yeah, get a question mark, because there's really not a lot here in Karamja. You can pick up the Obsidian Armor, but you have to have the Fire Cape before you get the Obsidian Armor. And if we're starting in Varlamore, you get Blood Moon. It's already better than Obsidian Armor. And, like, by the time that you get to a Fire Cape, you probably don't even need this armor. You probably got something good enough where it's not really worth the time to go and pick it up. You might see some use from some of the Obsidian equipment, like the Obsidian weapons might give you some early options if you're struggling for that. And Obsidian Cape does give you stats early on. It's not, like, fantastic, but it is something for the Cape slot. Likewise, the shield, this doesn't have a Slayer requirement like the Varlamore offhand, so this might be good for your melee setup. Does give a little bit of melee strength. But on the high end, you know, you do get the Fire Cape. It's good for all styles. You get the Inferno Cape, great for melee. and you're also getting much easier access to onyxes, so you can make your Fury, you can make your regen bracelet, give yourself a little bit of jewelry, kind of bling it out a little. And then, of course, the task breakdown for Karamja. Karamja is definitely a light region. There's a reason that it's free. Last year it was worth about 6,800 points. I don't think we'll see this change much, if at all. Last year we had 5 easy tasks, 17 medium, 13 hard, 12 elite, and 7 master. Most of these revolved around things like Inferno completions, Fight Cave completions, maybe the Zarket rack challenges. This is where you can fight like multiple Jads at once. They had a League special challenge as well at the end of that. We've got combat achievements in both of those areas. There are the Brimhaven rewards. Fishing Karambons normally gets some sort of task as well. All the Obsidian equipment, all the Onyx jewelry. So basically everything we talked about, that's all that's here. Those are the tasks that you're going to get. Now, something different that I wanted to do this year was go into the routing of these areas. How would I use them? When would I pick them? That sort of deal. So Varlamore I'm going to speak about mostly as a starting region, but like I mentioned at the beginning, I am going to give some thoughts about when I would pick this, just in case we don't get it as a starting region. I'll be surprised, but you never know. Since Karamja's free, we're just going to get that either way. Now, early on, if we're starting in Varlamore, we're probably in Civitas. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. Mainly, I think we're going to want to start with thieving. And the reason being, there's a big spread of thieving NPCs in the area, so you will find just normal citizens kind of wandering around in a couple different places, so you can start from level 1. You've got all of the stalls that are here in the marketplace, so that can help you kind of build up that XP if you don't want to just pickpocket. We've got guards running around up here. Once you get to 40, we've also got a master farmer somewhere down here in the south of Civitas as well, so if you want to start building up some seeds, working on some farming, that's kind of where we're going to be. And then once you get to wealthy citizens at 50, this is where you're going to be building up that initial cash stack. You're going to get some house keys. You're going to just get straight up GP from wealthy citizens. Even if you don't have a thieving relic, you can still use the passive of when they're distracted. It's free thieving, free pickpocketing, hands off the keyboard. You're never going to fail. So it's going to be really good for building up that early cash while we're here in the city. A couple other things that I think are good to do. Come over to the charter ships, get yourself 20 crafting levels from sand and soda ash. You can do this from level 1. So you just buy an inventory, 14 buckets of sand, soda ash, take them to the furnace, turn it to molten glass. You can bank it if you want to blow the glass later into something, but you don't have to. And just do that till 20. It won't take you more than a couple of inventories because in leagues we get so much XP. And that's going to help you later when we go to the gem shop in Alderaan. That way you're able to actually cut those gems. That's going to be much better crafting experience. Now, while you're also running around in Civitas, I'd recommend picking up some different armor sets here. In the past, there have been tasks for a couple of them, so things like equipping full myth, equipping full adamant. So it is worth picking up full sets of armor, at least, past maybe like steel, just to make sure that you pick up those early tasks. We won't be able to buy the helmet from here, but it is worth the run down to the southwest of kind of that Civitas Savannah region. Pick up the helm, easy task for you. You can train your combat over here, kind of near the farm. There's chickens, there's buffalo. The buffalo are a little tough. Maybe start with the chickens. If it gets slammed by people, you can save this for later because you can go to Gem Crab, and we'll circle back to that. But it would be nice if you can be here because you'll also get bones that you can bury with the goal of getting up to level 30 prayer. Now, don't forget, at some point, you probably want to come down to the mace shop and pick up a rune mace. It's going to be your best melee weapon. If you're going magic or ranged, you don't have to worry about it, but it's probably still worth the pickup if you've got the cash, because you will probably end up using all 3 styles at least a little bit here at the start. Now, once you're done with that area, you have a couple different options. You go the fletching and construction route, go towards Veiled Totems. It only takes level 20 in order to actually start the minigame. So chop the trees in the area, get that level, and then start this off. You're going to have a lot of rewards. Don't forget to pick up your Forester's Backpack. Last year, those events were worth points, so it's totally worth going out of your way. Pick up the backpack, slap that on as you're getting these logs and creating the Veiled Totems. You could do this until, 40, 50 fletching, whatever feels pretty quick. You can also turn some of the logs into planks for any of the early construction tasks, like building an oak larder in your home or things like that, or just getting the levels. So this is going to be a really good way. It doesn't take like a ton of GP, but we should still have some good starter cash from thieving in Civitas if we want to do the construction side. Or you can also do Hunter. Now, there's kind of 2 ways to think about this. If they give us access to the Hunter shop, we get bird snares. We can actually do this pretty quickly. There are level 1 birds, Crimson Swifts. They are over here just west of Camptorum across the river. There's like 6 of them. I know that's not a lot, if everybody's bum rushing this area, be kind to each other, but you don't have to be here for very long because of the XP rates. Once you get up to 15, if you have a butterfly net, then you can catch ruby harvest over here in Alderaan. There's a ton of these. It's like 20 spawns or something like that. Like, it's crazy. If we don't have access to a butterfly net, or you can barehand them at 25 hunter, though you're probably not going to be doing the hunter rumors if we can't get some of these low-level hunter tools. But, you know, this is going to be like, you'll be 46, even just catching these butterflies in like 10, 15 minutes. It might even be faster than that. If you really want to, there are some butterflies up north here of Camtorum. Once you get into like 20, 25, 35, there's like some glacial sapphires running around up here. So you could do that. I've personally found the ruby harvests are just so fast because they're all so grouped together right here. Now, some other things you can consider doing early. You've got that Alderaan gem shop to get your crafting up. So if there's some different crafting tasks, maybe you've got Golden God, you buy things noted, you're like printing money, you can get so many gems together. You know, this could end up being really good for you. Go for like an early Onyx once we unlock Karamja here in a minute. You are also looking to get that 30 prayer. So if you skipped out on the cows, maybe you go to the gem crab, get yourself like 30s in the combat stats. There's probably going to be a task like kill gem crab at least once. It's going to take you 10 minutes. You're going to get some good stats from there. There's a lot of different types of giants running around in Varlamore. To the west of Camtorum, you've got moss giants. Near the agility course, it's kind of the South Savannah area. You've got hill giants, and there's others just kind of wandering around in different parts of Varlamore. Find some of those. Get yourself to 30 prayer so you can start using the prayer method here with bone shards that you're going to be stacking up from some of the other stuff that you're doing. And because this is leagues, we're going to be really powerful. It might be fun if there's enough people that we send some Huey masses. You know, we all run in there with our adamant armor. We got our like ruined maces out and just smack the boss down. It's not going to be like great, but hey, you know, it's going to be worth some points. Maybe get some uniques, maybe get some supplies that you can kind of start building some things up. Might be fun. And while I don't have it here, if you do have like a fishing relic, you can go that route as well. Start working your way up towards sharks. It should be pretty fast. There's a lot of different fishing spots around Varlamore that you can work through. So that's another option for you. Now, hopefully, after all of that, you've unlocked Karamja. He's now appeared here in the bottom right. Welcome aboard. You might be picking another area as well, but for now, I'm going to keep it to the scope of Karamja and Varlamore. This is going to solve that agility problem for you. Go to Brimhaven, knock out 50 agility, then you can do some of the worm agility course tasks in Varlamore as well. You kind of get both of those things put together. You might also consider start Slayer. You know, if we've got that 48 Slayer requirement that we're held up on, they haven't done anything to like ease that for us in Varlamore, this is the place to start. It's also going to help you train your combat stats up. So go get a couple of tasks. It's really not going to take very long for you to get 48. And that's going to let you do things like the Heart of Darkness quest, start farming out a Moxliotl, get some better weapons. All in all, going to be pretty solid. Probably going to pick up a decent amount of points as well. If you have a mining relic, you know, it might be worth stopping in at the gem mine. One, take a couple of these gem rocks, get your crafting up that way if you didn't go towards like the Alderaan gem shop. Now, we do still have a big problem of rune crafting. I know. Another area is going to have to solve that for us if they don't give us something. Sadly, Karamja and Varlamore just don't really help out. I don't think we're going to be stuck lamping rune crafting, so that might just be a consideration. Yeah, maybe that gives, oh, I hate to say it, maybe that gives Kandarin some value. Ugh. I'll talk about Kandarin later this week. No one wants Kandarin, dude. Now, let's say that Varlamore isn't the starting area. Would I still take it as my first area? You know, maybe Yama says, ha ha ha, I'm going to let you pick. Pick your poison. Varlamore is probably one of the strongest starting regions. There's a couple of them in there that have really good spreads of skills, but I think Varlamore is likely at the top, if not like second place. So it's still a really strong first pickup if it's not already our guaranteed starting area. It also has a ton going for it with the armor sets and everything. So, I mean, really, Varlamore is probably one of my key areas if we don't get it at the start. But I'll share some additional thoughts as we get through some of the other content as well. So now we're moving into the mid-game. We've kind of done all of the quick tasks, all these different little skilling things. The big focus for us now is making sure we can do all of the Varlamore content. So if they didn't give us those quests for free, now's the time. That's the Heart of Darkness, the Perilous Moons quest, and a Final Dawn. That's going to make sure we can do all of the content in Varlamore. With this, we also pick up the Arc and Blade. That's going to come from the Final Dawn quest. It's going to be a decent weapon, kind of similar to like a Dragon Scimitar, and it also has a really good special on it. If you're struggling with any of these quests, particularly like the Perilous Moons boss, maybe you don't have the stats yet to farm out moons, go and kill some Frost Nagwas after doing the Heart of Darkness quest, or maybe a Moxliotl. Work on those tier 55 double hitting weapons. You can also go to like Sulfur Nagwas once you've started the Perilous Moons quest. Those are going to really help with your DPS. It's also going to train up your stats some. You could go to Karamja and pick up like some of the obby weapons as well. That can give you another option if you're struggling to find some gear. You can't quite get these bosses down. Maybe you're struggling to get those combat masteries unlocked. That type of stuff can kind of help bridge this. And I mean, in fairness, do more Slayer if you have to, because that's also going to push you to train those combat stats up. Now, when it comes to farming out the Moon's bosses, there are a couple of things that'll be helpful for you. The food and the potions are free in here, but you do want to have some herb lore and cooking levels, and then either fishing and hunter levels. You probably want to get those to like 50 plus. That would be a rough ballpark. You can do it with less. The stuff is not going to be very good. The free stuff that you get in here isn't going to be great if you have lower skills, because they scale off of all of these. So it's definitely worth taking the time. Get them 50 plus. Unless you're going to be bringing stuff in from outside, maybe you've got like an infinite stack of Karambwans from that food shop, then you probably don't have to worry about like the cooking, the hunter, and the fishing. You probably still want the free potions through Herblore though, because it is a little difficult to get boosting potions early on. You can use the butterflies if you want. So Ruby Harvests are basically like a super attack, and Black Warlock butterflies are basically like a super strength. So if you're really, really desperate, you can use those. But again, hopefully you've got like a farming relic or something of that nature that can help you train Herblore up to at least 50. The other thing to keep in mind is Moons is going to give you a lot of bone shards for prayer. This is going to be great for helping you just level up, get your protection prayers if you don't have them already, and kind of push yourself into those higher levels, like getting up to 70 so you can potentially use some of those higher level offensive prayers. I would also be looking in the mid game to farm out these bosses here. So we got things like a Moxliotl, getting the KC tasks for points there, going to Huey Coddle now that you've got some Moon's armor. You're really pumping him down with that Blood Moon. He's not going to survive very well. I'm telling you that right now. If Varlamore is the starting area, there are going to be so many people swarming Huey. You're kind of getting up there in the Slayer levels. Maybe you want to pick up that offhand from the Custodians as well. Help out like your Arkham Blade spec weapon. And you're also likely strong enough to go for a Fire Cape. You might have been strong enough earlier than now, but I know a lot of people are worried about Fire Cape, taking down Jad. If you've got the Moon's armor, you're in a good enough spot now where you should be able to take him down pretty comfortably. The Moon's armor is really, really strong. Now, I know this is going to look crazy. We're in the mid game, but Leagues gives you a ton of power through combat masteries. So I do think it's worth at least attempting some Doom, attempting some Colosseum, maybe even attempting some Vardorvis just to pick up some of their low tier tasks. I do not think you should be farming these guys in the mid game, but you know, Doom, get to like a Delva 3, get to a Delva 5. You probably have enough power with the Moon's gear to just straight up do that without even having to worry too much about the mechanics. So you might be able to pick up some free early tasks, get some points there. Same with Colosseum. You don't have to get to Soul. Maybe you go to like Wave 6 of the Colosseum, get some glory, get a couple of those early tasks. And if you are doing really, really well, if it's accessible, give it a try, do the Echo boss at this point. I know it's going to be really tough, especially if it's Echo Soul. It's probably not viable to get him down, but if you do, and you luck out and you get one of the items here, you are going to be eaten so well. Like, you're going to be doing so good. Yeah, you probably don't farm him out here, but I'm just saying, give it a shot. The Moon's gear is going to be really powerful for you. And then, of course, on the skilling side of things, you know, we've got a couple of other options that you may not have gotten to yet. Things like getting your Onyx Jewelry together, getting the levels for things like the Hunter Meat, so you've got a decent food that you have access to. You've got like the Sunlight Hunter crossbow set up now. Maybe you skipped Veil Totems early on. You can start pushing that up into like the 70s, working towards those magic trees, kind of picking up the last couple of points there. And then you're moving into the end game. This is where, yes, now it's time to farm out those bosses. Farm the Colosseum, get yourself a quiver, go farm Doom, get all these really cool drops from magic as well. Vardorvis, you can farm him. Like I said, it's kind of a pain in the butt going for the full sets of items from him. He does have that good melee ring. He does have good magic armor. The Executioner's Axe is probably going to be a fun weapon. Up to you. I will say I've tried farming the Desert Treasure 2 bosses in past leagues. It hurts, man. It hurts if they don't give us new protection. I don't know. You can also attempt the hard mode versions of these bosses. Leagues is a great place to do that. You do have to get the orbs, so it is going to be limited attempts, but you know, maybe as you're killing him, getting like a 250 KC task or something like that from this boss. Save up the orbs and just send a few in him. Just see how it goes. Maybe you'll beat him because Leagues has a lot of power behind it. Maybe not. It's not going to be like a whole lot of points. It'll probably be like a 200 or a 400 point task for completing the hard mode version of him. So it's nothing crazy, but it's definitely worth a shot while you're in League. And then, of course, we've got the Echo guys. So Echo Soul. Now it's time to farm him out. Go for your Inferno Cape from Zuck. Farm him out a little bit. There were a ton of points behind Zuck last year in Karamja. You get like 1,000 or 2,000 points just from Zuck. And the region itself is worth like 6,000. So, it's a lot of points, dude. But you're able to pick up like your Echo items, get the Echo Spear, get the healing bracers as well, get yourself some good stats, all of that type of stuff. You're sitting pretty well at this point. You know what you're doing. And that is it for Varlamore and Karamja. Oh, what a big area, dude. Well, what do you think of the routing side of things? You like that discussion? Did you like the shops being on a map so you don't have to play guessing where these things are? Either way, I am going to be covering all the areas, and I've got something special planned for you on Thursday as well, so make sure to subscribe if you want to be in the loop for those. I do also have a Discord if you want to join that. I am going to be putting these slides for everyone. That way you've got them as you're running through Leagues. Kind of have this as a reference for yourself on your other monitor. Those will be available in the Discord if you want to join. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.